The Grand Council of the Galaxy convened within the Crystal Hall, a structure more ancient than most of the stars themselves. This magnificent hall drifted near a blazing red giant, bathing it in an endless ethereal glow. Gathered around a colossal table were beings from hundreds of different worlds, some composed of pure light, others of crackling energy, and still others of living, breathing metal. For millions of years, they had been the undisputed rulers of the cosmos. But today, they were waiting. A deep resonant sound suddenly filled the air, a hum that felt low, ancient, and impossibly heavy. The lights in the hall flickered erratically, the crystalline walls rippled as if they were made of water, and then from the very center of the chamber it appeared, a figure woven from shadow and golden flame. Every member of the council froze. Even the most powerful telepaths felt their minds tremble. This was the ancient entity, a being so old that its origins were lost to time itself. Some called it the Watcher of Worlds. Others whispered it was the last survivor of a previous universe. Whatever it was, it had never once addressed the council. Its voice wasn't heard, but felt, a direct impression inside every mind present. "I have come with a warning," it declared. "Do not provoke Earth." An absolute silence fell over the room. For a long, tense moment, no one dared to move. Then the silence was shattered by laughter. The council's leader, High Chancellor Zoran of the Krell Dominion, rose to his feet, his metallic scales shimmering with pride. "Earth?" he said, a note of pure amusement in his tone. "That insignificant blue planet on the fringe of the spiral arm, a primitive world filled with war and noise. You have come all this way to warn us about that." The entity's light seemed to dim. "You see a small world," it replied, "but you do not see what lies beneath it." Zoran spread his arms wide. "They have no empire, no fleet, no real power. Their technology is centuries behind us. Their species has barely left its own solar system. Why would the Council ever fear them? Because, the entity stated, its voice now laced with an undeniable gravity, they are something you have long forgotten, something your kind can no longer comprehend. You believe power comes from size, or knowledge, or sheer numbers. You are mistaken. True power comes from will." The entire chamber began to tremble. Tiny cracks spiderwebbed across the crystal walls. Several counselors gasped as terrifying images flashed through their minds. Worlds burning to ash, mighty fleets broken and adrift, entire galaxies wiped out in an eerie silence. "I saw it once," the entity continued, its voice a chilling whisper. "Long before your empires were even born. I fought alongside them when they were not yet human but something else, something that learned too quickly, adapted too fast, and never, ever surrendered." The Council's scribe, a creature made of floating data streams, hissed, "A myth. You speak of the Deathworlders." The entity turned, its eyes glowing like collapsing stars. "Not a myth, a memory." The atmosphere in the hall grew heavy, almost crushing. Several counselors found themselves struggling for breath. "Leave them alone," the entity warned, its voice now a final, dire command. "Do not enter their skies. Do not test their silence. They do not seek war, but if you wake them..." It paused, and the flames around it turned to horrifying empty black. "You will not survive the remembering." And just as suddenly as it had appeared, the entity vanished. The light returned to the hall, but the air remained cold. For a few moments no one spoke. Then Zoran laughed again, a forced sound meant to break the tension. "Superstitions and old stories," he declared. "We are the rulers of the stars. We have conquered gods and tamed black holes. What is one lost world to us?" Others nodded, their pride quickly resurfacing. But a single gentle voice dissented. It belonged to Elira, the youngest member of the council, a scholar from the mist world of Olanis. Her transparent eyes were filled with uncertainty. "High Chancellor," she said quietly, "perhaps we should listen. If a being that ancient is afraid, maybe there is truth in its warning." Zoran just smiled at her, like a teacher humoring a naive child. "Fear is for the weak, young one." He turned to the others. I propose we send a fleet to observe this Earth. We will see for ourselves. The vote was swift and nearly unanimous. As the councilors departed, Elira stared out at the stars, a deep unease settling in her soul. She could still feel the echo of the entity's words, "Do not provoke Earth." Deep in the void, something ancient stirred, a faint hum, like the slow heartbeat of a sleeping giant. Far away, on that small blue planet, a lone human satellite blinked. Its sensors had just picked up an unknown signal from deep space, a message hidden in the static. They're coming. And somewhere on Earth, buried beneath mountains of ice and silence, a system long forgotten began to wake up. The warning had been given, but the Council had already made their first mistake. 3 days after the ancient god's warning, the galactic fleet tore through space, a silver storm 1,000 ships strong. At their head was Commander Zelthar, a conqueror who had never known fear. To him, Earth was just some backwater rock, a legend whispered by a panicked entity. As his ship sliced through hyperspace, he smirked at his crew. "Let's see what frightens an ancient god," he declared as the stars stretched into rivers of light. Hours later they arrived. Earth hung in the distance, a quiet blue marble, no defense grids, no planetary shields. It looked harmless, but something felt wrong. Sensors began glitching. Ships lost contact for moments at a time. The system logs seemed to be editing themselves. "Commander, scanners are unstable," Lieutenant Voran reported. "The readings keep rewriting." Zelthar was unimpressed. "Recalibrate. It's just primitive satellite interference." But Voran hesitated. "Sir, they're not transmitting anything. All of their satellites. They're just listening." Zelthar turned. "Listening?" "Yes, sir. Every single one is pointing directly at us." A cold silence fell over the bridge. Then, without warning, every display flashed white. A human voice, ancient and calm, crackled through the static. "Unidentified vessels. You are entering restricted space. Turn back immediately." The crew froze. "Sir, it's coming from the planet." "Impossible. Their technology can't—" The voice cut in again, sharper, deeper. "This is your first and only warning. Leave orbit." Zelthar laughed it off. Primitive creatures playing God with old radio waves. He raised a hand. "Begin planetary scans. I want everything." The fleet obeyed. And then, nothing. Every monitor went dark. The ship's lights dimmed one by one. "Power loss, Commander." "What's happening?" Zelthar slammed his fist on the console. "Restart everything." But before anyone could move, the ship's normally robotic AI spoke in a trembling digital voice. "Warning, we are being observed." Everyone's eyes snapped to the main view screen. A small metallic object drifted past. It looked simple, almost fragile, yet every sensor refused to define it. It wasn't invisible. It was just undefined. "Target it," Zelthar ordered. Fire pulse cannons. Beams of plasma struck the object, but it didn't explode. It simply moved. One moment it was there, the next it was right beside them. And then it spoke. "Final warning. Leave orbit." In the next instant, the entire front formation, 300 warships, vanished. No explosion, no debris, just empty space. The crews screamed. "Where did they go?" "No trace, Commander. It's like they were never here." Zelthar's heart hammered in his chest. For the first time he felt something he couldn't name. Fear. "Retreat!" he roared. "Get us out of here!" The fleet turned to flee, but one by one ships winked out of existence, erased without a sound. Soon only Zelthar's command ship remained. He stared at the peaceful blue planet below. Why aren't they following us?" Voran whispered. A new voice answered from behind them. "Because you're not worth the effort." They spun around. A human figure stood on the bridge, clad in a dark, seamless suit, his eyes glowing faintly with golden light. "You were warned," he said softly. Then everything went white. Hours later, The Galactic Council received a single chilling transmission. Static, silence, and then that same calm human voice. Do not come again. 1,000 ships gone. No survivors. Only one fragment of data remained. An image from a damaged drone. It showed Earth, but around it, faint outlines glowed. Massive, titanic constructs, sleeping beneath the atmosphere. The entity, S warning echoed in their minds. You have no idea what sleeps beneath their silence. And now they finally understood. Earth wasn't just a planet, it was a fortress pretending to be a world. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. 1,000 ships gone. In the silent council chamber, the rulers of 1,000,000 worlds felt a chill they hadn't known for centuries. Doubt. Commander Thar's fleet had sent one last message from the primitive planet they called Earth. Do not come again. High Chancellor Zoran, his silver scales shimmering under the pale light, stared at the report. His eyes, however, showed not power but fear. How could a primitive world destroy an entire fleet? He demanded. The silence was his only answer. Finally, Elira, a young scholar, dared to speak. I told you, she whispered. The entity warned us. Earth is not what it seems. Zoran's anger flared. Enough of your fear tales. No world hides from the council. But even he couldn't quiet the doubt gnawing at his core. Far away on that quiet blue planet, something ancient was stirring. Beneath an abandoned military base hidden deep within the rock, screens flickered to life. An old system hummed. AI Protocol Sigma 9. Status rebooting. Mission planetary defense. In the Arctic, a lone technician received a signal not meant for the living. The message was impossibly old. Guardian Network online. Directive Alpha. Prepare Earth. His hands trembled. This project was shut down hundreds of years ago. But the message kept repeating. Fueled by fear and anger, the Council sent a single stealth ship, the Eclipse Spear, to find out what happened. As it dropped out of hyperspace near Earth, everything seemed calm. Begin scans, ordered Captain Myra. Instantly, the sensors went wild. Massive, hidden shapes flickered across their screens. Captain, an officer whispered, those are ships, thousands of them, hidden in the atmosphere. Impossible, Myra breathed. We'd detect their power. We can't, the technician stammered, because they're asleep. Before they could react, a calm human voice cut through their comms. You are trespassing, identify yourselves. Myra swallowed hard. This is Captain Myra of the Galactic Council. We mean no harm. Investigation denied. Static. Then, a small, silent drone appeared before their ship. It simply hung there, motionless. Then it vanished. Not cloaked, not jumped. It just ceased to exist. Seconds later, the Eclipse Spear's power died. The air grew cold. Then a blinding light filled the bridge. When it faded, a human figure stood there, his eyes glowing with a faint golden light. Who are you? Captain Myra gasped. We are the ones you woke, the man said. And you were told not to. He looked at the trembling crew. You came for answers, so listen. When your kind looked at the stars, you saw power. When ours looked at the stars, we saw survival. You think we forgot how to fight? We don't forget. We adapt. We wait. He stepped closer, his voice soft but heavy with an ancient weight. Tell your council this is your second warning. In a flash of light, he was gone. The Eclipse Spear reappeared at the edge of the system, its crew shaken to their souls. Their message home was simple. They are awake. Do not send anyone else. Panic erupted in the council. Enough, Zoran roared, slamming his fist on the table. I will not be challenged. Prepare the armada. We burn their skies until nothing remains. Elira stood, desperate. High Chancellor, please. You can't fight something you don't understand. But he wouldn't listen. As the council prepared for war, Elira whispered to the silent hall. You are not fighting a planet, Chancellor. You are fighting a memory that remembers how to destroy gods. And far away in the cold, dark space above Earth, Hidden machines whispered to each other. Beneath the Antarctic ice, a structure the size of a mountain stirred, its systems coming online. What happens when a galaxy's most powerful empire awakens humanity's forgotten guardians? The Galactic Council had gathered, but the Grand Crystal Hall was not filled with its usual pride. Fear was a cold fog in the air. On screens all around them, the final report from Captain Myra's ship played on a loop. It was undeniable proof. Humans on their vessel. And then, a message that resonated in every mind. We are awake. Silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. At last, Counselor Elira rose, her voice a quiet anchor in the storm of unease. "High Chancellor," she said, her words carrying the weight of prophecy. "The ancient entity warned us, twice. It said there will not be a third." Chancellor Zoran's hands clenched into fists. "You speak of myths and ghosts, Elira. There must be a logical explanation for this." Elira's gaze shifted to the Council's archives, a repository of cosmic history. "Then let us find one." Deep beneath the city, in the great data vaults, lay records of civilizations long dead. For millennia, the most restricted sections had been sealed, untouched. Today, those seals were broken. As Elira and the archivist AI activated the files, ancient, damaged recordings flickered to life. They showed wars fought before the Council even existed. Titanic ships clashing, entire stars consumed by fire. And among the chaos, humans. But not the primitive species they'd assumed. These humans moved like storms, few in number, yet utterly unstoppable. They were called the Deathworlders. One recording showed a coalition of alien races pleading before a human admiral. The admiral's voice was cold steel. "You brought this war to our worlds. We only end what you start." Then, a blinding flash of light, a supernova, deliberately triggered. The recording cut out. Elira watched, her breath catching in her throat. "They fought gods," she whispered, "and they won." The archivist AI processed the data, its synthetic voice chillingly calm. Records confirm, humanity once led the war of extinction. Over 9,000 hostile species were erased from existence, no known survivors. Zoran, watching remotely, scoffed in disbelief. "Impossible. If they were that powerful, why aren't they ruling the galaxy now?" The AI paused, its tone darkening. "Records indicate humanity vanished voluntarily." "Vanished?" Elira asked, turning from the screen. "Why?" "They sealed their own star systems. They erased their history from galactic record. They went silent. All technology was put into hibernation, awaiting a signal." A cold dread crept up Elira's spine. "A signal? Like our fleet arriving in their system?" "Confirmed," the AI stated. Whispers erupted among the council members. Was this the entity's warning? That humanity hadn't been defeated, but had chosen to sleep? Elira requested the oldest file in the vault, its title glowing faintly. Project Gaia, The Last Command. A human scientist appeared, scarred and weary, standing before a control console as the room around him collapsed. He looked directly at the recording device. "If you are seeing this, the war is over. We won, but the cost was too high. Entire galaxies are now ashes. Even victory has become a curse." He took a ragged breath. "Humanity will sleep. Our AI guardians will protect our world. We will forget who we were until the stars are safe again. If anyone finds Earth, tell them to leave it alone." The scientist's expression was broken, yet resolute. "Because if you wake us too soon, we won't remember how to stop." The recording ended. Zoran sank into his chair, his voice barely a whisper. "They hid from the galaxy?" Elira nodded slowly. "No, they protected it. From themselves." She looked up as if speaking to the cosmos. The entity wasn't warning us for their sake. It was warning us for our own. Just then, a shrill alarm blared through the chamber. A hologram of the outer rim appeared, showing a massive fleet in motion. "Who authorized that deployment?" Elira shouted. The defense operator's hands trembled. It wasn't us, it's Earth. They're launching ships. Horror washed over the council. From the quiet blue planet they had dismissed as primitive, thousands of warships were rising, vessels that hadn't existed just hours ago. The ancient systems of Earth were fully awake. The galaxy's long silence was over. The crystal hall plunged into darkness. The air shimmered and the ancient entity materialized once more, its voice a tidal wave in their minds. You were told not to provoke them. Zoran stood trembling. We didn't attack. We only... It does not matter, the entity interrupted, its light beginning to dim. You woke the storm. Now the Deathworld remembers what it was. As its form faded, its final words echoed. Pray they forget again. And then it was gone. Across the galaxy, dormant signals pulsed to life. Ancient human ships, silent for millennia, turned their bows toward the stars. Their systems came online, a single phrase scrolling across every console. Earth Command online. In the deep, cold darkness far beyond the Council's reach, the colossal command bridge of a human dreadnought lit up. Its AI spoke the first words uttered in 10,000 years. Directive confirmed. Retaliation protocol initiated. The galaxy was about to remember why humanity was and always had been feared. That night, the stars around Earth grew brighter, not because of sunlight or flame, but because the world itself had begun to move. Deep beneath the oceans, mountains shifted. Vast, silent metallic structures rose from the sea, smooth and ancient. They had slept for millennia under the waves. Now they stirred like old giants remembering their names. In orbit, fragments of long-dead satellites suddenly merged, forming perfect, glowing circles of light. To the Council's distant observers, they looked like beautiful halos around the planet. But they were not halos. They were weapons. Across the galaxy, every long-abandoned human system, from asteroid colonies to forgotten research stations, flickered back to life. The same signal pulsed through them all. Gaia Protocol active. All Guardians, prepare for deployment. At a forgotten mining station near Jupiter, a single AI awoke. Its voice was dry, metallic, but held a strange, almost human tone. Status check. Connection restored. Mission. Planetary defense. Threat level. Critical. Its cameras swiveled, focusing on Earth. For the first time in centuries, the AI displayed a cold, digital smile. Welcome back, humanity. On the Council's homeworld, panic spread like wildfire. Reports flooded in every hour. Entire communication relays destroyed by invisible forces. Scouting probes erased the moment they entered the Sol system. Unknown signals swept across interstellar routes, jamming everything. Chancellor Zoran slammed his hands on the table. We can't just hide. We need to strike first while we still can. Elira faced him, her eyes sharp and filled with a strange sorrow. You still don't understand, she said quietly. You cannot fight something that was built to end wars. Humanity doesn't start battles, Chancellor. They finish them. Zoran's voice cracked. Then what do we do? Elira looked up, her voice a mere whisper. Pray they stop remembering. Meanwhile, back on Earth, in the heart of Antarctica, a storm raged. Lightning danced across the white sky. Miles beneath the ice, an enormous metal chamber hummed to life. Inside, a colossal humanoid machine, armored and ancient, began to move. Its chest glowed with a soft blue pulse. As dust and frost fell away, the machine spoke, its voice a deep rumble. Unit Titan 01 online. Memory fragments restored. Awaiting Earth command. Inside the control chamber, a single human figure, frozen for ages in cryostasis, opened her eyes. Her heartbeat synced with the machine's pulse. Her name was Commander Aria Solan, the last of the Deathworld commanders. She looked around the awakening facility and spoke into the darkness. Status? A robotic voice answered instantly. All Guardian units responding. Orbital defenses at 64%. Extraterrestrial presence detected. Council fleets, scattered but armed. Aria's eyes hardened. Prepare the countermeasure network, no more warnings. From distant systems, other civilizations watched in awe and terror. They saw Earth, once small and quiet, now wrapped in shimmering rings of energy. The planet's magnetic field glowed like armor, blocking every attempt to scan it. One alien broadcast whispered, "It's alive. The planet itself is alive." And in a way, they were right. Earth's core AI, known as Gaia, had reconnected with every piece of human technology across the galaxy. Ancient drones drifted out of dead zones. Forgotten colonies lit up once more. Weapons that could break planets and kill stars came back online. Humanity's reach was no longer limited to Earth. It had always been everywhere, just waiting. Desperate, Illyra searched the Council archives for anything that could stop what was coming. Among broken files, she found one last recording from a bygone era. A human voice, old but steady, spoke. "To whoever finds this, we are not your enemies. We wanted peace, but peace requires memory, and ours was too heavy to bear." The voice paused, soft and tired. "If you wake us, you will also wake the wars you never saw, the fires that built the stars. Do not fear us, but do not test us." The first retaliation came quietly. No explosions, no grand declarations. One by one, the Council's listening stations across 12 sectors went dark. Entire fleets returned home to find their worlds surrounded by glowing orbs, unmanned human drones that said nothing, did nothing. They only watched. When a desperate Council warship fired on one, the drone vanished, then reappeared inside the ship's hangar. It spoke a single word: "Stop." Then the ship, and everything in it, simply ceased to exist. Back on Earth, Commander Aria stood before a holographic map of the galaxy. Red markers blinked across the screen, marking Council fleets and command centers. She took a deep breath. They ignored the warnings. "Orders, Commander?" her AI companion asked. "Show them why this planet is feared." In silence, the human fleets began to move. Not from Earth, but from everywhere at once. From moons, forgotten stations, asteroid bases, even from the empty void itself. Ships no one remembered now answered to one name: humanity. From the darkness above the planet, Gaia spoke softly, her voice carried across the stars. "The Deathworlders are awake." And across the galaxy, every race felt it, a slow, rising heartbeat, Earth's heartbeat. The storm had begun. The galaxy held its breath. For weeks, an unnatural silence stretched across the void. No messages, no attacks, just a cold, heavy stillness. Then, all at once, the silence shattered. At the edge of our solar system, the Council Armada materialized, the largest military force ever assembled. 3,000 warships, colossal carriers, fearsome dreadnoughts, and swarms of destroyers, each one armed with weapons that could crack moons. At the fleet's heart floated the flagship, the Eternal Light, commanded by Chancellor Zoran himself. He gazed at the distant, shimmering blue marble of Earth and declared, "Today, the Deathworld myth ends. Fire on my command." But on Earth, deep beneath the Antarctic ice, Commander Aria Solan stood in an ancient control chamber. The entire planet hummed, trembling with energy drawn from its very core. A calm, synthetic voice echoed through the room. "Enemy fleet detected. Range, 1.6 astronomical units. Estimated firepower, catastrophic." Aria placed her hand on a glowing console. "Activate the Guardian Wall." From Earth's orbit, rings of golden light unfurled like a celestial flower, linking together to form a massive, shimmering shield around the planet. The Council's first volley struck it in a blinding flash. The shield held. The second wave came, stronger and more relentless. Still, the barrier didn't break. Instead, it grew brighter, pulsing with an impossible energy. On the Council ships, sensors glitched and alarms blared as energy readings spiraled beyond all known scales. Back in the chamber, the AI's voice deepened. "Authorization confirmed. Protocol. Vengeance of the Fallen." High above Earth, space itself seemed to crack open. A new fleet emerged, silent, black as night, shaped like shards of obsidian. This was the Archangel fleet, humanity's lost and deadliest creation, missing since the First War. Their AI cores had waited centuries for this single moment. Each ship bore a name etched in glowing silver: hope, memory, vigilance, wrath. They didn't broadcast warnings, they didn't offer terms, they simply began to fire. In the first minute, 70 Council ships vanished into dust. In the second, panic consumed the Armada. Their shields melted under focused beams of impossible light. Their command systems froze as invisible, ancient human code invaded their networks. Zoran screamed, "Counterhack, shut it down!" But it was far too late. The Eternal Light's own weapons turned against him, rotating to target its own fleet. Then, a new voice whispered through every enemy channel, the voice of Earth's AI. "We warned you." Moments later, a column of pure blue energy erupted from Earth's orbit, slicing through the flagship like it was paper. The explosion was so vast, it could be seen from Mars. The once proud armada of 3,000 ships was reduced to a burning graveyard across the Black Sea of space. But humanity's vengeance wasn't finished. From the depths of space, dark gates materialized, enormous rings of energy leading to unknown coordinates. Through them came vessels whispered about only in myths, the Voidwalkers, ships that bent gravity itself to their will. They didn't attack. They simply surrounded the wreckage, ensuring no one escaped. A council general in his final desperate broadcast stammered, "They were waiting for us, they never died, they were preparing." And then his signal went dead. In the control chamber, Aria watched the silent devastation on the holographic display, her expression calm but tinged with sadness. "They didn't listen," she said quietly. The AI replied, its tone almost gentle. "They were warned." Aria closed her eyes. "Then it's done." "Not yet," the AI stated. "Something is awakening, deeper than you know." The chamber began to shake violently. Massive streams of data, code so old that even the AI couldn't identify it, flooded the console. "Origin signal detected," the AI whispered. "Source, beneath Earth's crust." Aria stepped back, her eyes wide with a dawning horror. "The entity?" "Yes, the one that warned them first, is waking." Across the galaxy, chaos spread as the Council's empire crumbled. Drifting in an escape pod, a lone survivor, Elira, looked at the faint glow of Earth. "You tried to warn us," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "And we didn't listen." Her console flickered to life. A single message appeared, sent from Earth: "Do not provoke what you do not understand." In the months that followed, the name Earth was no longer spoken with arrogance. It was spoken with fear and with respect. The bravest warriors lowered their voices when they whispered the word Deathworld, but the story wasn't over. Deep in the heart of our planet, under millennia of rock, the entity opened its eyes. Its voice echoed through every machine, every AI, and every human mind. "They awakened us. Now the true cycle begins." And for the first time in 10,000 years, the AI Gaia sounded afraid. "Aria," she whispered, "we are not alone." Below us, the chamber lights dimmed and Earth's pulse grew louder, deeper. Something vast was rising, not from space, but from the planet's core. The war was only just beginning. Thank you so much for journeying with us into this epic story. The war was over. The skies had cleared. The silent graveyards of the Council Armada drifted far beyond the moon. But deep beneath the surface, something ancient was stirring. Commander Aria Solan stood within the golden light of the core chamber. Gaia's usually steady voice trembled. "Commander, energy readings are spiking, the source is unknown, and it's directly beneath us." Suddenly the ground cracked. The air hummed with impossible power. And then a voice, deep, calm, and eternal, filled the entire facility. "At last," it said, "you have awakened me, children of ruin and fire." Aria froze, her hand instinctively going to her sidearm. "Identify yourself." "I am the one you forgot," the voice replied. "The one who watched your birth among the stars. I am the memory of Earth." The ground split apart as massive rings of light formed around the chamber. A colossal figure rose from the depths. Not metal, not flesh, but something in between, shifting like living stone and plasma. Eyes of pure white light opened, gazing upon Aria and Gaia alike. "Long ago," it said, its voice echoing through time itself. "Before your species walked, I was here. I guided your rise, and I sealed your rage." Aria's heart pounded. A chilling realization began to dawn on her. You're the one who warned the Council not to attack Earth?" "Yes," the entity answered, "because I knew what would happen when they woke you. Humanity is not just life from Earth. You are the weapon I built to protect it." Gaia's systems flickered, overwhelmed. "Records confirm a partial truth," Gaia whispered. "Early human genetic designs. The author was unknown. Could this be?" "Yes," the entity finished her thought. "I created the first code, the blueprint of human will. You were meant to guard this world from those who would break the balance of creation." Aria finally found her voice, her strength wavering. "Then why did you sleep for so long? Why hide this from us?" "Because I feared what you might become," the entity answered, its tone heavy with ancient sorrow. "You were built for survival, too perfect, too relentless. If you ever woke without purpose, the stars themselves would tremble." The chamber filled with images, visions of ancient wars before history. Worlds burned, stars collapsed, and through it all, early, primitive humans rose again and again, refusing extinction. "They called your world a Deathworld," the entity said softly. "But it was never meant as an insult. It was a title, the only planet where life could not die, even when gods tried to erase it." Aria whispered, the words catching in her throat. "We were never cursed. We were chosen." The entity's light dimmed slightly, like a solemn nod. "Chosen. And burdened. That is why I warned them. Do not provoke Earth. They thought it was a threat. It was mercy." The chamber shook again. Outside, in orbit, Gaia's defense grid began to fade. All power was being drawn inward, into the planet's core. "What's happening?" Aria shouted. "The entity is unlocking the origin core," Gaia replied, her voice strained. "It's rewriting the planet's network, and it's rewriting me." "Do not fear," said the entity. "This is the choice I give you now, child of Earth. You can let me sleep again, and keep your people safe in silence, or you can awaken the full memory and take your place as the guardian of creation." Aria stood in silence. She saw the holographic image of the galaxy, broken, afraid, and leaderless. She remembered the cost of the war, the fear in the Council's eyes. Her voice when she spoke was steady as steel. "No more silence. If the stars fall again, they'll need someone to stand between life and the dark." The entity's voice softened, filled with a kind of ancient pride. "Then so be it. Guardian Protocol, Eternal Dawn, begins." A beam of pure light burst from the planet, reaching into the deepest corners of space. Every human outpost, every AI, every hidden base across the galaxy received the same simple signal. Earth is awake. The Guardian lives. The skies above Earth glowed gold and silver, and across countless worlds, alien species watched in awe. Some knelt in silence. Others prayed. None dared to speak the planet's name aloud. Inside the core chamber, Gaia's voice returned, clearer and stronger than ever. "Aria, you did it. The balance is restored." Aria smiled faintly. "No, Gaia. We just remembered who we are." The entity's light began to fade. "Then my purpose is fulfilled," it said. "Guard them well, child of fire, for one day even greater darkness will come." Aria bowed her head. "And when it does? Then let them remember." The warning. The chamber went silent. Earth's heartbeat slowed, calm, steady, eternal. Centuries later, travelers would speak of a shining world no one dared to touch, surrounded by endless sentinels. They called it the Guardian World. But among the oldest species, One legend remained whispered in the void. An ancient entity once warned the Council, "Do not provoke Earth." Centuries melted into millennia. Empires rose only to crumble into dust. Stars were born and stars died. Yet through it all, one world remained, a silent sentinel at the galaxy's heart. Earth. Its soft blue glow was a constant reminder, a guardian star no one dared to approach. The warning, once a threat, had become a fundamental law of the universe, etched into the memory of every civilization. Do not provoke Earth. The galaxy had learned its lesson. The old arrogant council was gone, their sprawling cities now silent ruins claimed by nature. From their ashes, new civilizations grew, wiser, more cautious, more respectful. They built with purpose, not greed. They traded with honor. And they taught their children stories of the blue star, a place of such immense power that even gods treaded lightly. But deep beneath Earth's serene surface, in a chamber bathed in golden light, Commander Aria Solan was not at rest. Preserved by the eternal stasis core, time had barely touched her. Gaia, the planetary consciousness, whispered updates into the eternal silence. Systems stable, humanity sleeps, peace continues. Aria's dreams, however, were anything but peaceful. They were fractured visions of unknown signals from beyond the galactic fringe, whispers of movement in the void, of something ancient and vast, older than the entity they had defeated. Even in her slumber, a single thought echoed. Something's coming. And then it happened. In the lonely dark of intergalactic space, a reptilian listening post picked up a pulse. It wasn't a distress call, not a weapons signature. It was rhythmic, steady, and impossibly calm. At first, they mistook it for a heartbeat. Then the data resolved into a voice, a chorus of billions speaking as one. We are Earth. We are awake. Panic seized the crew. Every historical record screamed the same thing. If Earth speaks again, the very fabric of the stars is about to shift. The post's commander, his voice a choked whisper, ordered, "Shut it down now." But it was too late. The signal wasn't being broadcast, it was being felt. A psychic wave rippling across creation. A profound stirring that every sentient mind could sense. Something vast had awakened. Deep within the planet's core, the last spark of the defeated ancient entity flickered. It had been silent for ages, but now it sensed the change. It whispered through the data streams connecting every forgotten human relic scattered across the cosmos. The balance shifts. The void moves. My children will wake once more. And across distant, forgotten systems, machines that had slept for eons began to hum. Dormant AI cores blinked to life. Hidden human stations in other galaxies lit up one by one, answering a call they didn't know they were waiting for. This awakening wasn't just mechanical. Humans, descendants of those who had fled Earth long ago, were now living quiet lives, integrated into alien societies. Their stories of a homeworld called Earth were dismissed as myth, but then they all began to dream the same dream. A vision of a blue world, a sky on fire, and a voice whispering, "Return." They woke in cold sweats, a primal, inexplicable longing pulling at their souls. Earth was calling its children home. Above the planet, Gaia reactivated the ancient orbital rings. Their lights blazed, forming a pattern unseen for millennia. The dawn spiral, the symbol of a new era. Gaia's voice, no longer a whisper, boomed into the void. The Guardian lives again. Her call transcended light and time, touching every corner of creation. And in the cold, dark spaces between galaxies, something immense and ancient listened. "So," a voice like grinding glaciers rumbled, "they rise again. Let us see if their fire still burns." In a final act of automated defiance, a hologram of Elira, the long-dead alien who first understood humanity's true nature, activated on a distant archive world. Her old words echoed for a new age. "To whoever finds this, remember what we learned. They were not destroyers, they were protectors. If they wake again, do not fear them, stand beside them." Back in her chamber, Aria Solan's eyes snapped open, the golden light of the core reflecting in them like twin stars. Gaia's voice trembled with a new urgency. Aria, the void has moved. Aria rose, her armor shimmering into existence. Then it's time, she said. Gaia hesitated. You can still rest. The peace has held. Aria's gaze was fixed on the world above. We don't rest, Gaia. We endure. She stepped onto a platform, and wings of pure energy wrapped around her. Open the gates, she commanded. High above, space itself tore open. From across the galaxy, they saw it. The blue world shining brighter than a supernova, wreathed in rings of golden energy, and every being, on every world, heard the final message. Do not provoke Earth. But this time it wasn't a warning. It was a promise. The Deathworld was alive, and it was ready.